Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Star Wars video game figure unboxing and review. Today we're taking a look at the Scout Trooper Commander based off his appearance in Jedi Survivor. Now I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys Star Wars figure review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, while for the most part it is done in the same way as literally every single other Hot Toys Star Wars figure, this banner, matching the blue and orange to the orange pauldron and the blue electricity effects, if that is indeed what they've done, is awesome. I love the way that looks, and if we ever do get more figures from Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order, fingers crossed that we do, I hope they continue this trend of color matching the banner to the figure itself. Oh, and on the side of the box, we do have another image of the figure, so that is 3 in total so far. And the banner is high gloss, so it contrasts against the satin finish for the rest of the box. Around the back, warnings, legal information, and a massive dent in the bottom left-hand corner. Even though this was quite well packed, it was bubble wrapped and double boxed, that was simply not enough to protect it from the DHL driver. I was watching him on the Ring doorbell, and this thing copped a yeeting. It was literally thrown onto the doorstep. Look, at the end of the day, I'm an out-of-box collector. If you're an in-box collector and it bothers you, maybe you can file some sort of DHL claim or something. On the slipcover, we have an image of the Scout Trooper Commander riding a speeder bike, even though you can't actually purchase him with the Return of the Jedi speeder bike. And another picture of him showcasing an absolutely hideous helmet gap. That just means they are reusing the molds from the previously released Scout Troopers. Even though I don't think that helmet gap is supposed to be there, but it sure as shit is. First in-hand impressions, so far so good, except for the helmet gap. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first. Normally I'm fine with these Imperial flooring style rectangular bases. For a figure from Jedi Survivor, though, I would have liked something a bit more game specific, like a little bit of terrain from literally any of the planets that we see Scout Trooper commanders on in the game. Nevertheless, it's just generic enough that it could be anywhere in the Star Wars universe. We've got some sculpt work up on top with some silver dry brushing along the edges, Star Wars and Scout Trooper Commander on the etched nameplate, and up top an adjustable crotch grabber, with a wider grip than usual to accommodate slightly more dynamic poses. I've always found the Scout Trooper blaster pistols quite funny looking because that's a huge sight for a teeny tiny little blaster. And there's not even a lens around the front. It comes to a sharp point where there is a lens around the back. It's not painted in high gloss, unfortunately, so this thing ends up looking quite flat. Video gamey, perhaps, which is fitting seeing as though he is based off an appearance in a game. Some silver dry brushing would have been nice, like the Return of the Jedi version of this blaster. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to have him posed with his other weapon anyway. I mean, how could you not? This is one of his only new accessories, and I think it looks awesome. There's a bunch of texture sculpted in for the grip, there's the big shiny silver button with some weathering on it, and there's some weathering for the top portion as well. This doesn't look quite as great as the rest of it, granted, because you can see the brush strokes and they're going in different directions. If this was supposed to be brushed metal, they haven't quite achieved that look for me personally. You can extend the top part, and when you do, it's quite secure. It's not loose or floppy at all. It's not going anywhere. Now, you can install this electricity effect. you're supposed to thread it onto the thin part. I don't love that because it's quite loose, so for me personally, I'm going to have it just sitting slightly over this top piece, and that should hold it in position. There is some darker blue shading on the effect part, which is cast in translucent plastic, so it just adds some more depth and visual interest. And lastly, a half new array of hands. The left ones are all reused from the previous Scout Troopers with the rib detail on the back and the wrinkling sculpted in and the stitching, whereas the right ones are new because they all feature this wired electro plate on the back of them. The right hands are also slightly bigger in scale compared to the left ones, which I don't love. So for those wondering, that was a trigger finger hand for the right and a gripping hand for the left. Now we have a closed fist for the left and a gripping hand for the right. And finally, 2 open palm hands already installed on him out of the box. What we are going to do now, though, is get the Scout Trooper Commander himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. It's always a gamble, taking a fan favorite established look for a trooper like the Scout Trooper design, and adding a bunch of crap all over it. It's a very video game Star Wars thing to do. Sometimes it works, and other times it doesn't. For me, it's borderline. There are certain things I like, such as the wires and the pauldron and the electrobaton and the box around the front. The harness with the big silver buckle up front and the canister around the back, they don't work for me as well. And then we get to the elephant in the room. We do not have Cal Kestis, or any of the other characters from either Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order. So where is this figure going to go? You could always have him pose next to the regular Scout Troopers, but we never saw these guys in live action, so that would drive my OCD crazy. I am genuinely stumped. I really don't know where Hot Toys expects us to put this guy. Maybe next to the other one-off video game characters like the Jump Trooper and the Shock Trooper from Battlefront? I don't love that. If you're making game characters from a game with a key main character, you need to make the main character Hot Toys. Come on. Up close and personal, before we kick things off with the helmet, this is essentially a Return of the Jedi / Mandalorian Scout Trooper, just with a couple of new armor bits and pieces slapped over the top of him, and a pauldron. Can't forget the pauldron, of course. So, I would like to call the review done at this point. I can't. We'll go into a little bit more detail than that. So the helmet is reuse from both of those previously released Scout Troopers, which means the sculpt is fine, the paint applications are very sharp, there's weathering, the grille detail's painted, the visor is a separate piece of glossy plastic inset into the sculpt, and there's all these little greebly bits and pieces for the front mouth plate. However, the helmet gap is still present. This is terrible. It's not only inaccurate, but it looks goofy as hell. The reason why this is here is because in The Mandalorian, Jason Sudeikis was one of the Scout Troopers, and I guess his head was too large because his helmet couldn't close. So, of course, Hot Toys being Hot Toys, they decided to model their Scout Trooper helmet after that one, and then never change it. This would be a very simple change to make. You ditch the plastic inside there, close up the gap, and the helmet would look significantly better. Front on, it's not terrible. From the side, that gap is far too obvious for me. For as big of a Scout Trooper fan as I am, I have no idea how I didn't know that there was an asymmetrical design on the back of the Scout Trooper's helmet. We've got painted on lines for the left side, whereas on the right, they're sculpted. I like it. It just adds a little bit of visual interest. Underneath the helmet, he's got this ribbed fabric nylon neck cover. It's not pleather, so you don't have to worry about it when it comes to posing. And he still has the little Scout Trooper backpack on. There's some sculpt work and paint applications for this panel on top of it. The pauldron, the wiring, the harness, the canister for the electrobaton, and the baton itself, all of that stuff is new, and you will have to do a little bit of assembly out of the box. Nothing crazy, it is quite straightforward. So the wiring extends from this panel up underneath the pauldron, and you'll simply have to slot it into the hole on the top of the canister. Then the canister attaches to his back with Velcro. Before you pop this on, do install this piece on the belt first, shimmy it down a bit, and then you'll have enough room to install the canister. This is sculpted plastic, but there is a fabric strap harness thing on it, which doesn't really serve any purpose at all. It is game accurate though, it's supposed to be there. You can install the Electrobaton into the clip on the side, it's just held in place with magnets, and as long as you don't bump it, it shouldn't go anywhere. Oh, Hot Toys, what is with you and using pleather? Once again, the pauldron is made out of the stuff, and right now it looks great. Yes, there's some dirt and grime on the surface, there's a bit of a sheen to the black part, and the strap underneath the arm holds it in place, and it's in one piece. That is not going to last though. Eventually, this is going to degrade. Pleather is pleather, and pleather flakes. There is no reason why this couldn't be sculpted plastic. They did it for Captain Rex, they can do it for this Scout Trooper. At the very least, if you want to remove it, it's doable. So one day when it looks awful, you can switch this guy up from being a Scout Trooper Commander from Jedi Survivor to just being a regular old grunt Scout Trooper from the game. The harness is also removable. I don't think it would be wise to take it off though, because unlike episode 6 Scout Troopers, he is missing those padded pouches on his midsection, so it would look very bare and a little bit boring. Oh, and you can adjust most of this stuff, including the belt buckle, which is painted in this nice shiny metallic silver. The wires are real wires for the most part. These are, same thing with these. But the ones on his hand that are connected to this mottled metal looking plate that is just painted to look like metal, it's just rubbery plastic, those are fake wires. It does a decent enough job of looking like they are continuing all the way down the arm to his hand. Whereas on the other side, it's just traditional Scout Trooper over here, and these armor plates are adjustable, so once you dial in the pose, just adjust everything. They're supposed to look like they're all in line, I think, if I'm doing it correctly. This guy is significantly cleaner than both the Mandalorian and Episode 6 versions of the Scout Trooper. Their buckles and straps and fabric sections were way yellower than this. These are still beige, but not quite UV sun-drenched yellow looking. This, to me, looks a little bit better, even though I know those other Scout Troopers are accurate to the source material they're based off. This fabric front codpiece is held in place with elastic connected up around the back to the midsection. The belt you can move left and right, it's made of rubbery plastic. And these buckles are real, so if you wanted to undo them, you totally can. His pants are full fabric, there is some padding underneath them for literally no reason whatsoever because the pants are quite baggy, so they could have done without the padding, then articulation would have been way better. The knee pads are the correct way round this time, and they're held in place with elastic. There's some weathering over the top. The right side is significantly dirtier than the left though. Speaking of the right side, there is a holster on his boot for his teeny tiny little blaster pistol. And it slots in there very securely. Once it's in there, it's not going anywhere. I still love the way they designed these Scout Trooper boots. They look great, and functionality-wise, we get a ton of range out of them. The top part is not made of pleather, this is made of nylon or some kind of synthetic fabric. So they can paint it, which they have, the boots look quite filthy actually, and they crease and wrinkle naturally. On the underside, we've got some sculpted tread, and the magnets are still in the toes, so this figure is technically compatible with both the Mandalorian and Episode 6 speeder bikes. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, Jedi Survivor's Scout Trooper Commander, and on the right, the regular old Scout Trooper Grunt from Episode 6. They are kinda the same figure, same body, same outfit, mostly the same armor plating, just with a couple of differences when it comes to the harness replacing the big pouches on the front of the episode 6 one, and the new guy has a pauldron. Which one do I prefer? I think the Scout Trooper Commander, as cool as it is, just adds too much unnecessary busyness to the front of a design that I already thought was perfect. So I've got to go with the episode 6 one. Speaking of episode 6, here we have an episode 6 Stormtrooper, who is quite a lot shorter than the Scout Trooper Commander. I would have an issue with him being shorter than the Scout Trooper Grunts, which he is, but next to a Commander, I don't mind the boss or the Scout Trooper in charge being a little bit taller than everyone else. So for me, it's borderline, but it works. And finally, because we do battle Vader in both Jedi games, here we have Darth Vader alongside the Scout Trooper Commander. I like this. It's going to be down to personal preference who you end up posing this Scout Trooper Commander with. In the future, if we eventually get more Jedi Survivor figures like Cal Kestis and Seer and a game-specific Vader, then I will transition him to that display. Going over articulation, starting off with his helmet. It's on a double ball peg and an articulated neck. Combined, looking forward to there, going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. His arms will go up to there, the shoulder pad just tucks neatly underneath the harness. Going forward and back on soft ratchets, there's a butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, ratcheted double bend at the elbow going past 90, and for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. The torso articulation for the standard Scout Trooper was already limited thanks to the padding and the multiple layers. But this time we also have the belt and the harness to contend with. Crunching forward to there, going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. His legs will go forward to there on ratchets, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. Ratcheted double bend at the knee going past 90, and a double ball peg for the ankles. Good for forward and back, swivel, as well as heaps of ankle tilt. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is the helmet gap. I know I've already mentioned it, and it's probably not the last time I'm going to, but this is just a disgrace. I mean, look at the character models from the game, it's not supposed to be there. The second annoying thing is how you attach the electro baton canister to his back. So it's done with Velcro, which normally would be fine, but because the panel that has the Velcro on it is flat for the canister, but then the receiving end is rounded on his back, it doesn't sit flat. I mean, as you can see, it's super loose, and if you connect up one side, the other side detaches. The best way I've found to do it is to apply even pressure on both sides, and then it'll sit there for a minute. Eventually, one side will become detached though. The third annoying thing is Hot Toys and their pleather. They cannot get enough of it, it seems, because this pauldron is made of the stuff, and traditionally Hot Toys pauldrons made of pleather, they don't last very long. The first cool thing is that they used real wires for all of these red cables. If there was some kind of electrical component, they could actually carry power. They are real wires, and that means you can pose them as well. The second cool thing is, I love how easy it is to attach the electro baton to the canister. There's a magnet in the handle, and there's a magnet in the canister. It pops on there, it sits in place, no fuss whatsoever. The third cool thing is they're still using that really supple, soft material for his boots that is definitively not pleather. So you can pose the shit out of his ankles and you don't have to worry about damage or the fabric eating into itself over time. Wrapping up on the Hot Toys Jedi Survivor Scout Trooper Commander. I'm just imagining the boardroom meeting when Howard Chan and the rest of the team were sitting down discussing what they were going to do for this game. And someone said, you know what would be funny, Howard? If we don't make Cal Kestis or Seer or any of the other main characters, we just give collectors the Scout Trooper Commander. And there'll be just enough hype at the time we announce it that people will think that we're going to make the main characters, so they will pre-order this guy. But then we won't make any of those main characters because fuck collectors. We're going to go as cheap as possible, as much reuse as possible, throw in a cheap, shitty pleather pauldron, and call it a day. Luckily, the figure is dope, so they just skate by the skin of their teeth. I love this figure, even though we don't have a, Cal Kestis to have him fighting. Fingers crossed one day we get one. For now, he's going in the video game area in my display next to the other one-off stormtroopers, and that's just where he's going to be. It's a shame. There was so much potential with the game and this line, all we got was the Scout Trooper Commander. I am hoping the pauldron lasts a while at least, because it does add to the vibe. It makes him so video game specific, and it gives him another point of difference compared to the standard Scout Troopers that you likely already have in your display. If you wanted to have him bossing around those other Scout Troopers, you could totally do that. The only reason why I can't is that would drive my OCD crazy. A Mandalorian Scout Trooper doesn't belong next to an Episode 6 Scout Trooper, who doesn't belong next to a Jedi Survivor Scout Trooper. Nevertheless, I can put all of that other stuff aside. This figure, in and of itself, is great. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.